Welcome into another episode of the Junkyard Dawgcast. I am your host, Benjamin Wolk, as always, joined by Kipp Adams. I'm sitting here in what was once a rainy Sanford Stadium and then became a pretty nice afternoon here in Athens, Georgia for the last regular season game of the 2020 or last regular season game in Sanford Stadium of the 2025 season. Georgia faces off against a super overmatched opponent, which I think was something we talked about plenty throughout this week. Georgia wins 35-3 against Charlotte. It could have been far worse than that if Georgia made the choice to make it worse than that. But Georgia doesn't cover, as is often predictable when Georgia is a 38-plus point favorite. And there were plenty of opportunities for Georgia to cover this one, but that's just kind of the way that Kirby Smart's going to call games and coach games and rotate personnel in a matchup like this. But more or less, Georgia's first unit takes care of business on both sides of the ball. Gunnar Stockton, nothing spectacular, but has a pretty typical Gunnar Stockton day. They pound the rock once they got into the red zone with a couple of different running backs. We'll talk about all of that. The defense, once again, basically impenetrable, but again, against an offense that was just never going to be able to move the rock in this one. There are a couple other things that I need to bring up around this game. But before I do any of that, Kipp, just do you have any big takeaways from this one? Is there a big takeaway that's even fair to have after a game that goes the way it kind of was supposed to go today?
Congrats to Charlotte for its program's biggest payday in program history. I think at the end of the day, when you're shelling out close to $2 million for an opponent, you're basically helping them fund not just their entire program, but other sports. That's kind of the big thing about this and why Kirby Smart at the end of the day wants the ability to still schedule teams like that. And we are in a time where these games have a chance of becoming obsolete, going to 9 conference games, strength of schedule being mentioned as being so important. These are program builders for these, non-Power 4 teams. And I just think that we kind of knew the result of this going into the game, and a couple possessions in, you knew how this game was going to unfold. Overall, you didn't exactly see the cleanest game of football. It probably helps Kirby Smart out with, again, going into clean old-fashioned hate, knowing that his team did not play perfect football out there. The one takeaway I have from this is I found it fascinating that there were 0 passing touchdowns in this game. 0 touchdowns accounted for at quarterback. I don't think that if Gunnar Stockton finds a way in the upcoming games to get invited to New York City, I don't think they'll be showing any clips from this game in his Heisman highlight reel.
I completely agree. I said I thought this would be the stat pad Gunnar Heisman type of game. There were certainly opportunities to be able to do that. I mean, Georgia gets inside the 5-yard line on a couple of different possessions. They pound the rock with Nate Frazier. They pound the rock with Nate Frazier. They pound the rock with Bo Walker 3 different times. Look, Kirby Smart's going to stand there and he's going to say at his press conference on Monday, like, Gunnar Stockton embodies the Heisman. He deserves this. He's not going to change the way that he calls plays or what philosophies are once you get into the red area. Like he said it earlier this week. Why has Georgia had such a high touchdown percentage once it's gotten to the red area this season? Because they run the ball well once they get into the red area. They're not going to stop doing that just to try and cheat Gunnar Stockton some touchdowns here or there. But you said, Kipp, that this game went basically exactly as we would have expected it to go. Maybe some scores looked a little bit different here or there. Maybe how much they used Gunnar Stockton in the red zone to actually score touchdowns looked a little bit different than we might have expected. But what couldn't have looked any differently than what you at the very least expected? We do our bold predictions article every single week, and A lot of times I'm asking questions. Sometimes they're serious. Sometimes for a game like Charlotte, it's a little bit more like, let's have some fun with it. And the one that I thought made a lot of sense for today was we knew Ryan Puglisi was going to play at some point. It was just a matter of when is Ryan Puglisi going to step in and play. So I asked everybody on the Dogs 24/7 team, and if you haven't checked it out over Dogs 24/7, check out our Bold predictions article every single week because we've got gems like this every single week. But I don't think any of them was ever as masterful as this one, Kipp. I asked, when is Ryan Puglisi going to take his first snap of the game? And Mr. Kipp Adams said that it would be at the 8:41 mark in the third quarter. And if you weren't keeping tabs on this during the game, let me remind you that Ryan Puglisi took his first snap of the game with 8:41 left in the third quarter. Kipp, I don't even know what your game prediction was, but I mean, you clearly had some kind of script before this one started.
The only thing I have with the game prediction that we can know is that, as you mentioned earlier, Kirby Smart is now 0-14 and 1 against 38 plus point spreads. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I actually love the prediction I had. I kept it going a little bit on that prediction, if I remember correctly. I think I had Ryan Puglisi going 7-11 passing in this game, and I think he went 7-11 passing. I didn't get
that's crazy.
I didn't get the yards right, and ultimately, I said I had him going for 3 full drives, and then Ryan Montgomery getting in for 2 drives, and he did get 3 full drives. And I think if he actually went along with my prediction and got 84 yards and a touchdown, then I think Ryan Montgomery would have really sealed the deal with my prediction and gotten 2 possessions in this game. But you know what? I'll take the time I'm coming in, going 7-11 and 3 full drives. I feel overall that's a solid win for the bold predictions piece. And honestly, you can only get so bold in a Charlotte game bold predictions piece without predicting the Niners to pull an upset. So I think overall I like that, how it went down. I love doing that piece every week because the questions are always we got to have some fun around here. This gives us a chance to kind of just not do the typical team writing thing or just talking about X's and O's or defensive line get to push, things like that. We're able to have some fun. Like I think last week's who's going to have the first horns down prediction was one of my favorite of the year.
I think we settled on that was probably KJ Bolden. I think
the only known one that we know of was KJ Bolden. If you guys saw some horns downs out there outside of KJ Bolden, like send them our way. Tweet them at Dogs247 or our personal accounts. We need to see some horns down from the players so we can get a good read on who got that prediction right. But I just think overall with this game, it's about getting as many guys on the field as you can. That's Georgia overall was able to do that. They started the game with a couple backups in, and I think that that played a role there when you're going in and putting in your backup center with Drew Bobo having that laceration, and then Ernest Green sitting this one out and having Juan Gaston at right tackle. I think they did have an effect there because again, you have a different center under center, like taking snaps from a different guy, it's going to have an impact. And I think overall, that's where Kirby's able to find value in this. There are areas of improvement for this football team, especially the guys that haven't played as much. And you saw that today. Georgia did not have its cleanest day offensively, but still, I think the defense got it done when it needed to. And it's still something you could take into one of the top offenses in college football next week.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, Kipp, that I believe that the most exciting part of today's game was when we realized that Ryan Puglisi was going to be running out with 8 minutes and 41 seconds left in the third quarter. That's not just a testament to how boring of a day or sleepy of a game that it was, which we all knew that today was going to go just about exactly as it went. I think it's a testament. I mean, I was fired up. Like Jordan and I, we went to look because Jordan was like, I think I'm pretty close. And I was like, I feel like someone was right around that 8:30, 8:40 mark. And when I pulled it up and you were the first one and it said 8:41 right there at the top, I said, there is no way that Kipp just pulled this off to the second.
I mean, if we have if it's going to be game 11, and I think if we have 55 predictions in, like, I just think that statistically you're bound to hit on one of these. Now, if I don't need anyone. I mean, we love the traffic. Guys, do not go back through all the bowl predictions and take account on how many I got right, because I do not want to know what that number is. But if you're not a Dogs 247 reader and you're just not hearing this, I get a lot of these right for sure, and definitely read our Bolts prediction piece every week, because I'm definitely going to keep this streak up. This is not like a one-time thing. But I did do a little bit of a double take myself. I'm glad that like Mike Bobo and Kirby made sure that they pulled up our site. They have us bookmarked, and they're like, man, we got to throw Kipp a bone on this one. So thank you guys for making that happen, and definitely check back in next week for my Georgia Tech Bowl predictions and playing your game accordingly.
That's right. Kipp is peaking at the right time when it comes to the bold predictions. I do want to call out just some general highlights, like good things that I think happened today that are worth noting, even though, like we said, a lot of what happened was relatively predictable. I thought Gunner was solid in this one. I mean, 17 of 21, 196 passing. I think he had like 11 rushing or something like that, and took a bad sack. It really was a two-play stretch that I would say was the negatives for Gunner Stockton in this one. He takes the sack, which I know Kirby Smart said in the halftime interview, like, you don't take a sack during 2 minutes. He knows that. You can't do that. That's just the way it is. Puts him into a 3rd and long, and clearly was trying to force the issue in a 2-minute situation to Lawson Lucky. Throws a bad pick. You can live with that. You look at the rest of what Georgia does offensively in this game. After the punt to start the game, they go touchdown, 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 touchdown. He throws the pick, and then he comes out of halftime, and they have the touchdown on the first possession out of halftime as well. So again, nothing super flashy. Nothing that's going to win Gunner Stockton the Heisman. Nothing that's going to get Gunner Stockton to New York. Nothing that's going to make you say, holy moly, Mike Bobo had himself a day. But just one of those clinical Georgia offensive performances that we've sort of grown accustomed to seeing this year, when Georgia, needs touchdowns, wants touchdowns. They have 9 play, 6 play, 8 play touchdown drives, and it just looks pretty methodical at this point. On the flip side of that, on the defensive side of the ball, on Charlotte's first 8 possessions of the game, they only had 1 possession where they had more than 4 yards, or 4 plays rather. Every other possession was a 3-and-out or the 4-play field goal drive, which happened after the Gunner Stockton pick. So it really wasn't much of a drive in itself. The only drive that went over 4 plays for Charlotte in that stretch was the possession where Ellis Robinson has the interception, pretty good high point ball skills type of play from the Georgia cornerback. So again, really the first 8 possessions of the game defensively, there's nothing that you can really point to where Charlotte had a lot of success. I mean, you just look at the Charlotte drive chart. It's punt, 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 interception, punt, field goal after the interception, and then punt, 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 interception there to end the game. So I made the joke to Jordan at one point early in the first half. I was like, is Charlotte going to get a first down today? Like, I just don't see this offense being able to move the football. Like you mentioned earlier, Georgia was intentional in rotating in some younger guys very early on. I think it was Rashawn Dinkins was in on the 3rd possession of the game. I want to say there were some guys in the defensive front, younger guys in the defensive front that were in there circulating really, really early on. So Georgia knew that they were never really going to be threatened on the defensive side of the ball in this game, and that allowed them to get creative with some of their substitution packages. But yeah, I think all in all, Charlotte ended up with 7 first downs, and I think 4 of those came in the 4th quarter there. So really, the first 3 quarters, Georgia met 4 of them might have been through the first 3 quarters, but giving up 4 first downs. I don't care who you're playing. 169 yards, 39 yards rushing. Like, Georgia handled business on the defensive side of the ball in this one. Are there any other just general highlights that you would point to, Kit?
Yeah, I mean, holding Charlotte to 1 of 11 on 3rd down is going to help the numbers for Georgia. I think offensively, Bo Walker, man. Welcome, welcome to Georgia football. he scored his first touchdown, and you're like excited for the freshman, and then he's just like, I'm going to get 2 more. And so a 3 touchdown day for him, where again he's not as fast as some of the other backs on Georgia's roster, but man, he runs violent. He's got great contact balance. You can see bright future for him. Noah Thomas made almost everyone on Charlotte's team miss on his 38-yard catch. I think that was like a 3rd and long situation. He made something happen and made a lot of guys miss. Kind of did his best Zachariah Branch impersonation on that play, which again, Branch doing some heavy lifting, making plays out of nothing. You saw that from Noah Thomas on one of his more impressive plays on the season. Again, a guy that wasn't really part of the offense as far as touches early in the season. Now he's a focal point of this offense. And then my last offensive point, it was good to see Roderick Robinson out there. Extended run, his most playing time of the season. 5 touches for, I think, 36 yards for him. Looked good out there. That's big for him. And then defensively, Elijah Griffin's coming on, playing outstanding football. Got his first career sack on a straight bull rush where the guard was just draped on his pads there and just basically drove right through to the quarterback anyway. Raylan Wilson's playing his best football this season, sliding over there for C.J. Allen. Looked outstanding out there. And then Chris Cole was all over the football field. I mean, he got another sack. He now leads Georgia with 4 sacks in the season, but also had another tackle for a loss. Chased down the ball carrier twice for short gains. Had a quarterback pressure as well. Outstanding game for him. And then Ellis Robinson, this guy was counted out earlier in the season. I mean, after that Tennessee game, people were wanting to bench him. Former 5-star, he's a bust. Just want to let you guys know that he leads Georgia in interceptions now and looked like Malachi Starks on that pick. I mean, he just climbed the ladder there and very athletic play, great ball tracking there, and just very quietly. I think you got to look at towards next season. You got Ellis Robinson, DeMello Jones, Dominic Kelly's getting Georgia might have pretty good cornerback group next season. That you're seeing some great football out of there, some flashes of some shutdown cornerbacks on this roster. So I think overall you saw what you needed to see, and some you got in enough guys that some experience for them. And just remember, okay, for all the people that are disappointed with this performance, just remember the UMass game last season. That's what I was saying going into this game is they had to basically play their starters for, most of the game because UMass put up 21 points on them. And that team is pretty similar to what Charlotte's put on the field today. And they were able to really get the backups in throughout the game, sprinkle them in, but then really pull your starters after that first drive in the third quarter. That's your goal in this situation. You're able to do that and you move on.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to call out some individual performances that I liked. We'll look through some of the stats. As always, Jordan and Olivia are down at Kirby Smartin Players and have a couple of updates on it, guys, that I don't think there's any alarming news with any injuries, but some guys that didn't participate today, not really surprising, and we'll just talk a little bit about that. So when we get back, we'll cover all that. All right, Kipp, quick stat rundown on both sides of the ball real quick. And I know that we've covered really both sides, but just to paint the picture of it, Georgia has 449 yards of total offense, 257 passing, 192 rushing. Georgia has really adopted a balanced offensive identity here over the last 5-6 weeks of the season. I mean, those passing and rushing numbers look great every single week. 30 first downs, 4 of 10 on third down, 1 of 2 on fourth down. Sokovie White had the drop there with Ryan Puglisi in for that one that wasn't converted. ran 31 more plays than Charlotte ran in this one and averaging about 6 yards per play. Again, pretty methodical, what you would expect type of game from Georgia on the offensive side. Charlotte on the other side of that, like I mentioned earlier, only 169 yards of total offense, 39 yards rushing. They only had 7 first downs, and 3 of those came in fourth quarter garbage time. Charlotte was 1 of 13 or 1 of 11 on third down, and I believe the only one that they picked up was their first down of the game, and I think it was like a 3rd and 11 situation where Georgia blitzed. Quarterback just picked it up, got a receiver in space, and he got that first down. So I don't know that you could have asked much more from Georgia defensively in this game. Another game, I think with maybe about 7 minutes left in the game, Charlotte was averaging less than 2 yards per carry. Texas just averaged less than 2 yards per carry last week. Charlotte ends up with 2.3 yards per carry. I know some of that has quarterback sack numbers baked into it, but still, Georgia was this close to 2 straight weeks of less than 2 yards per rush for an opponent. Like I said, I don't care who you're playing. If you're holding teams less than 2 yards per carry, you had a spectacular day. You mentioned a lot of the individuals that I thought had really good days that it was nice to see. I mean, I think you've got to mention Bo Walker, 9 carries, 48 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has his first touchdown of his Georgia career, and then he parlays that into a hat trick of an afternoon. He just has that look to him. I'm going to say it. He has that Georgia running back feel to it, that one cut, make a guy miss, sees a space. I don't know. I just think that there's been a lot of optimism around Bo Walker throughout the course of his freshman year. I thought Georgia was really trying to force the issue at times with Dwight Phillips. It just felt like he hasn't been able to find a crease when they've given him opportunities. And then there, late in the second half, things started to break through from him a little bit. He had 7 carries for 45 yards. It just feels like he is an eyelash away from some 50, 60, 70-yard runs, and he just hasn't quite been able to find that. You mentioned Noah Thomas. He's really coming into his own. He is clearly becoming a comfortable – when Gunnar Stockton throws it to Noah Thomas in a tight window, man, does he feel confident making that throw. He had the one against Texas that was the second touchdown of the game where he threw it to the corner of the end zone near the pylon. He had a very similar one to that for a first down today. So it was at midfield, but it was on like a 3rd and 8 or something like that. Noah Thomas on the right side and just throws a dart to him. It was pretty well covered by the Charlotte defender. But when you're 6'6", 6'7", you just create a little bit extra space. I mean, Gunnar Stockton makes it look easy throwing to Noah Thomas right now. Of course, Zach Branch is going to be Zach Branch. It's just appreciate what you have with him. He is one of those players where you can't replicate that. You don't just have guys that change direction in split seconds the way that he does. You don't have guys that can turn screenplays that should be -1 yard gains into 13-yard gains. Like those type of players just don't come around every single year. So enjoy what you have and be thankful for the fact that you were able to get a guy like that in the portal. You mentioned on the defensive side, Kipp, a couple of guys that I thought had good games. I did want to give a shout out. Daniel Okonkwo, friend of the program, came on before he enrolled in the summer. I was told around signing day last year that there were a couple players that Georgia felt were the steals of the class. They thought J.J. Hanna on the defensive line was certainly one that had the potential to be a steal of the class. But Daniel Okonkwo was one where Georgia was fully believing that they had found a diamond in the rough, stealing him away from Northern Illinois late. He gets in, makes a good play. It wasn't he didn't have to make some game-breaking play to pick that one off, but still, there's other players that don't come down with that, and he did. I don't know how much you can judge the pass rush. It just feels like more and more Georgia's making negative plays. Again, we know that Charlotte completely overmatched, but I thought Georgia did a much better job to just create havoc in certain situations, and it feels to me like Gabe Harris every single week is creating a little bit more havoc. He seems to be around the quarterback a little bit more and more. Even if he's not getting him to the ground, he's just causing some chaos. Were there any individual performances that I mentioned there or that you have not mentioned yet earlier, Kipp, that you want to make sure that we give them their fair due in this one?
Well, again, a game like this, you got a lot of young players that kind of get their first real taste of action. So, walk on Jeremy Bell with a 12-yard catch, a guy that we had heard in camp was really impressing. Thomas Blackshear, coming back from injury, you thought, going into the season that he could be one of the freshmen to make an early impact. But, still coming back from injury, having a 9-yard catch in this game. I think defensively, I was really impressed by, just the late snaps you had in the young secondary. You got some guys coming in like Jaden Harris was the guy in the transfer portal that came in, and, you didn't know if he was going to be the starter at safety, but he got some good snaps. The most playing time we've seen today, clear by far, from Rashawn Dinkins. And again, a lot of freshmen in this game. He was one that, again, I think played as much as anyone. If we go to the snap count, I think he's going to be really, really high up there. And then, I think the one guy who was probably anticipating having a chance for a career high, maybe didn't get it, but still looked good when he got out there. Brett Thorson had to be happy when the backups came in offensively, because he was like, I might have a chance to punt multiple times today. Gunnar Stockton's been killing me out here. And you know what? After probably the worst game he's had at Georgia, bounce back game from him. And that's, again, people don't like talking about punters. You never want to hear about them. But still, for him to have a 63-yard punt in this game and to have 51.3 yards per punt, it's what you want to see, because you never know when you're going to need something like that in a close game. And I think Georgia has a chance to play in close games in every game they play moving forward. So I think just having him out there and doing well was big. And then I think you really thought, because we came into the preseason with the predictions, Zachariah Branch was so close to breaking one on the returns in this one. Like that 29-yard return, I thought, like, he had an angle for a second there, and you thought he might get it, and he didn't. But still, 3 punt returns for 44 yards, and then Sokovia Whitehead came in there and got an 11-yard punt return as well. I don't know if we're going to get the preseason prediction on the return touchdown. Still another chance, but this is as close as I think we've come. So still, that's a feather in the cap for the special teams game going into, like we said, big season finale here in clean old-fashioned hate.
A game like this one, a lot of the conversation or the reaction after the game is getting out healthy. And I think that by and large, Georgia was able to get out healthy. I think they took an extra step there, and they held some guys out that aren't injured per se, but could have been able to go, but they just didn't feel the need to force it with them. One guy that I don't think any of us were expecting to be out there, given last week CJ Allen was not dressed out during pregame warmups, and he did not go. Drew Bobo did not get the start at center, which you mentioned earlier. Malachi Tolliver gets that start at center, which shout out to Malachi Tolliver for getting into the rotation as early as he has in his career, given what his recruiting profile was when he was coming through. Kirby Smart said post-game that Drew is still dealing with a laceration on his hand. My guess is precautionary. He was obviously fine enough to be able to give it a go last week against Texas. I don't think anything was exacerbated in that game or in practice, but I think that when you're playing Charlotte, give a younger guy an opportunity, see what you can do in the run game with the shaken up offensive line. And hey, it just adds to we mentioned how many different rotations Georgia has had to start on the offensive line this season. It just adds another variation that Georgia has had to deal with. They were also without Ernest Green at right tackle. Kirby Smart just said post-game that Ernest should be back. Another one, I don't think that there's really much to look into there, but an opportunity to get Juan Gaston some work at right tackle. Bo Hewley got some work at right tackle. Marcus Harrison gets in late in the game and gets some work at tackle. Josh Jackson gets some work at tackle. And so, again, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world when you're getting to see a bunch of different guys on the offensive line. It doesn't sound like either is too bad. One update that we didn't get anything on, or as far as I know, he wasn't even asked about, but I don't believe Chauncey Bowens took a snap in this game. I know he didn't have a carry. I don't really know if that is just further preserving. He dealt with a hamstring earlier in the season. You don't need to force it. I don't know if that was further preserving him. And then Josh McCray also didn't play in this one. I don't know if there was something to that. Like a lot of the fullback snaps that he would ordinarily get, Roderick Robinson was getting those snaps. So I don't know if there's something there or if it was just a case of Roderick Robinson had a good week of practice or they wanted to give him an opportunity. Who knows? Roderick Robinson's been around the program for a while, and it's not out of the question that this would be his last opportunity to play a game in Sanford Stadium as well. So I don't know if that plays into things too. Does any of that concern you, Kipp, or does that all sound pretty much to be expected?
The job specifically with the Rod Robertson, now that you bring it up, this also happened last week. Forgive me, I don't know what your snap counts are from last week. And guys, everyone should be reading Ben stuff to know the grades and snap counts. But I do not believe Josh McCray got in. I don't remember. He definitely didn't get a touch against Texas, I remember. So if you're looking for maybe something that's going on here, either Rod Robinson's passed Josh McCray on the depth chart, which again, these things happen. Rod Robinson was on my my fall camp draft. So I thought he was going to play a big role for Georgia this season, but maybe Josh McCray's a little banged up. And so, you know what? It's a similar skill set. Rod Robinson's actually, come on. He's finally healthy. They're taking advantage of that. It could be one of those things, could be both. It could be nothing at this point of the season. But I do think that it now we have kind of a 2-game trend where it does look like when they're wanting the short yardage back or they want that kind of back on the field, that Roderick Robinson has been getting those snaps. And as far as the offensive line, they were just being safe. If you listen to Gunner talk, Drew Bobo's pinky was hanging off of his hand. He's mentioned that multiple times now, and I'm wonder. It just feels like if it was 5 to 6 stitches, like I don't know, like is that how many stitches you need to keep a pinky from falling off? But it seems like it was a pretty significant laceration. But at the same time, we knew that if you needed to play, pretty sure you'd be out there. I don't think a laceration like that, it shouldn't have gotten worse over time. So I think Drew Bobo will be in at center, and I think Ernest Green will be at right tackle. And it's a group that really seemed to be coming into its own in that Texas game. So I don't think there's anything else you could take from that.
I will say Josh McCray did play 2 snaps against Texas, so I don't know if something happened there. I was watching him during warmups. He looked like he was moving fine during warmups. I will also add someone that didn't play in this game but was a full go during pregame warmups was Georgia safety Kyron Jones, who when he had that nasty foot injury or leg injury earlier in the year, I wasn't really expecting to be seeing him fully going through warmups before the end of the regular season. So I think that that's a positive sign in the right direction as well, the way things are moving with Georgia's safety. All right, Kipp, it's early. It's only, let's see here, it's 4:22 Eastern time as we record this. So a lot of games still to be played across the country, and there's not a ton of intrigue on the college football slate this week, but just giving a quick rundown, Alabama's up 35-0 against Eastern Illinois in the third quarter. Oregon USC is probably the game of the afternoon. It's tied 7-7 early in the first quarter there. Notre Dame's up 35-0 on Syracuse. Vanderbilt is up 10-0 on Kentucky, which is not good for the Georgia makes the SEC championship game without a Bama or A&M loss scenario. They do need Kentucky to win that game for that to be able to work out. Texas is up 7-6 early on Arkansas. Tulane up 10-0 early on Temple. Utah down 7-0 early on Kansas State. Michigan, Maryland tied 7-7 early, and TCU up 7-0 early on Houston. Ohio State boat raced or Rutgers, even though I think it was somewhat close at halftime. Texas A&M boat races Samford. Oklahoma wins 17-6 against Missouri, which probably was about as boring of a game as it sounds like it was. And then Miami wins 34-17 at Virginia Tech, making it harder and harder every week to keep Miami behind Notre Dame in the rankings. Again, Kipp, not really a whole lot. Is there anything in particular with the slate that you're looking forward to watching this evening?
Right now, just looking to see if, Michigan, Maryland early, but they're tied. Arkansas hanging in there. Just gave up a touchdown just now. As I said this to Archman, just a touchdown to to go up 13-6. I was going to say that it looks like they're hanging in there as well. But, yeah, I mean, obviously covering Georgia, you want to see how Georgia Tech looks against Pitt. That should be a name your score kind of game. I'm guessing the over-under there is 60 or above. So it's probably not first one to – I don't think getting to 35 might not be enough in that game. But you want to see what Georgia Tech's defense looks like. Like, can they get stops in that game? I think they'll get just enough to win, but that's still a big question mark for me in that game. After that, it's I think you're looking to see what can Cincinnati pull off the upset against BYU. I actually kind of like their chances in that game. I think that's going to be an interesting game as well, with BYU still hanging in there and trying to get into the college football playoff. So there's some solid nighttime games right now set, but this slate right now, I think it's all on the Oregon USC game. And I had USC winning that game. I think in the end, I think they're going to be the better offensive team in the second half. But like that Georgia Tech Pitt game, I think it's going to be a shootout. It's two great offenses going at it, and the quarterback that doesn't make mistakes at the end of the game is going to win that one. I think Jade Malava is going to be the guy. I trust Lincoln Riley in that scenario, but I think that's one of the more fascinating games, not just of the week, but maybe of the overall season.
Completely agreed. All right, y'all. Thank you to everyone who watched us or listened to us live. If you're listening on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify after the fact, we appreciate you as well. Wherever it is that you're watching or listening, please like, thumbs up, subscribe wherever you are. It does help us out a bunch, so we appreciate you there. Also, please go subscribe to dogs247.com. We are going to have plenty of coverage leading up to the Black Friday game against Georgia Tech. We're hot and heavy into basketball season already. Georgia's got a big game on Sunday against Clemson after a near buzzer-beating win against Xavier last night. Signing day is about a week and a half away, and I will tease Dogs 24/7 right now. I think our national reporter Tom Loy has some updates on Georgia five-star quarterback Jared Curtis, which I'm sure you may or may not want to be reading, just depending on how the updates are going right now. But I think it's important for you to stay in the loop over there. So certainly subscribe over at Dogs 24/7. But I don't know if this will be our last game in Sanford Stadium this season, Kipp. There's a chance that there's another one if Georgia catches a home playoff game. We really don't know, but right now Georgia is in the fictional bracket with a bye, and if they win next week, I think there's a chance that they end up with a first-round bye regardless. So if this is the end of the season in Sanford Stadium, it was a fun one. I know folks would have probably liked to avoid the 24-21 loss to Alabama, but other than that, a pretty run-of-the-mill, fun Sanford Stadium football season. Georgia finishes it off with a 35-3 win against Charlotte, and it won't be even a full week. It'll be 6 days before Georgia's kicking it off in Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Georgia Tech at 3:30 Eastern time on Black Friday. I'm really looking forward to that one, Kipp. I'm sure you are as well. But again, thanks to everyone who listened, and we will see you all next time.